Hello and welcome to our beaded blanket stitch tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to sew a blanket stitch and how to add beads to give a really nice decorative finish. You can really change the size and the number of beads that you add to give a completely different look. Start by taking the two layers that you want to sew together with the blanket stitch. Take your embroidery thread or the thread that you're working with and tie a knot at the end. You're going to go in between the two layers with your needle and come down about an 1/8 3mm from the top raw edge and bring that through. This is to hide the knot from the wrong side. Now the first stitch for the blanket stitch is slightly different. You're going to need to go from the back of the two layers of felt to the front, coming out through the hole that you came out of previously with the thread, or as close to that as possible. Once through, you'll have created a loop and you're going to go through the loop, and that should create a little knot right at the top there. Now to add beads onto your blanket stitch, you're going to need to add a bead now before you start sewing the stitch. Now we decided to work with these tiny little seed beads, but any bead will be fine. It depends on what you're working with. Depending on the size of the bead that you're working with, you may find that you need to change your needle because your needle needs to be able to easily go through the bead. And we're going to position the bead onto the thread. And you might decide that you want more than one bead. I'm going to add 3. Now once I've added the 3 beads onto my thread, I'm going to start sewing the blanket stitch. I'm going to move my stitch forward from the last stitch about 1/4 inch, 5mm, but it's up to you and depends what you're working with. And I'm going to pull that through. Now I'm going to create a loop and I'm going to go through the loop from the front to the back. And that's going to create my blanket stitch with beads attached. Now on to the next one. I need to fill up my needle with my beads first, and I'm going to work with 3. And I'm going to position my needle in from the back of the 2 layers to the front, moving along by the same distance. So again, that 1/4 inch, 5mm for consistency. From the edge of my layers of felt, I'm about 1/8 3mm. And I'm going to pull that through. And then my loop's created and I'm going from the front to the back through the loop. Just like so. And I'm going to fill up with beads again. And I'm going to sew from the back of the 2 layers of felt to the front and then through the loop that's created from the front to the back. There you have it. And again, filling up with beads, and then from the back to the front, create the loop, from the front to the back, through the loop. We do have a tutorial on how to sew a standard blanket stitch. If you would like to watch that, we'll put a link to that in the description box below. Now the number of beads that you use and the size of the beads is really up to you and something that you can play with to get a fantastic result. Now I've finished my last stitch here, so to finish the back stitch, I'm simply going to go from the back to the front and come out exactly where I came out on my previous stitch. And then I'm going to go through my loop again to create a little knot at the end. Now you can tie another knot to secure it, or you can take your thread in between the 2 layers of felt, come out somewhere else, pull on this and simply cut off at the base to hide the thread. And there you have it, a beautifully beaded blanket stitch. Thanks for watching.